So many years ago, when I first started writing, so maybe like 25 years ago, I had noticed with some of my clients that we are generally waiting for permission. Like we're waiting for the right time, we're waiting for the right bank accounts balance, we're waiting for somebody to say, yes, you can do this. And I just kind of thought that was a little bit bullshit. Like, why are we waiting? Like, we are on this planet for a split second. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for? I know people that are waiting for their parents to die so they can go forth and lead their dreams or live their dreams. And to me, that just sounds crazy. And so I kind of symbolically wrote down, are you waiting for permission? And I put it in my back pocket and I said, I'm going to use this someday, either as a book title, that was my original idea, or something else. Little did I know that 25 years later, Grundei and I would be having conversations about what to name our podcast. And I believe that it resonated with Eli and Gary and other folks because it's kind of a universal theme that shows up over and over again.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to LOA Uncorked. This is Holly.
And this is Jeanna.
And Jeanna.
I know. I'm a little scared.
They said they're double trouble.
Yes, I know.
But
and I can tell
I say
already.
it's a foursome, our first foursome. And let's just say it's our first foursome on LOA Uncorked.
Thank God we're explicit. Thank God we're explicit. Exactly. Can you believe it?
So excited about seeing these people today, meeting them.
We have technically met our match.
Well, I think we're going to lose already because they're improv stars, comedians. I don't know. I mean, we've got everything going on. Happiness coaches.
I know. Even mid-afternoon, I'd be in trouble.
I know. We'll just try to hang in there.
You're right. Exactly.
All right, everyone. We're so excited. We have two beautiful guests today. And our guests are Meridith Grundei and Joseph Bennett.
Yes.
And welcome to LOA Uncorked. Both of you.
Good morning.
Thank you.
Good morning. Happy to be here. Thank you. Thank you.
They are the hosts of Are You Waiting for Permission?
All too often, really.
Yeah. I know. And we spent 2 minutes with them. I already got I got the prescription pad already.
I know.
Just give yourself permission, Holly.
Yeah. Well, she just writes shit for me on a regular basis. Just writes stuff and sends me off to the Walgreens and tells me to go get them filled.
I love it.
Yeah, scares me, but she already has the pad ready and willing. I'm glad we have professionals who can write a proper prescription.
I know,
yes,
right?
Yes,
so we're so excited. We're doing a podcast swap. So we're going to be on their podcast, which we'll put in the notes. Yay. And they are here today with us.
Yay, fantastic. Well, welcome. So typically what we start our podcast, just to kind of ground our conversation for today as much as we can, given this crazy crew, is just if you could, each of you could share a little bit about yourself, your background experience, sort of kind of the key parts of you that have led you to where you are today, what brings you here sitting with us. Just a little bit of something for our audience to kind of get to know you, and then we'll launch into some questions beyond that. So should we start with Meridith? I see some pointing. I like your voluntold, Meridith, to go first. How about that?
Ladies first. She knows I always say ladies first.
You always say ladies first. You are so lovely. Thank you for that, Joseph Bennett. So my quick bio, this is a quick bio. Okay. I'm going to give you the Cliff Note version. Here we go. This is how this all happened. So I have always loved the theater arts, loved it. So I decided to say, hey, mom and dad, I'm going to be an actor. And of course that was received like, okay, cool. What does that mean? And then I didn't really define that for them. I just kept doing what I wanted. And I left undergrad and moved to San Francisco and started getting involved in sketch comedy and then doing some weird theater stuff, experimental work. And then I had this member of the sketch comedy group that I was in who was like, I'm going to hightail it to Chicago and learn some improv. And I was like, well, I want to go to Chicago and learn some improv. So before I hightailed it to Chicago, I got married to my first husband. And then we drove to Chicago together because I'm like, if you want to be with me, we're going to Chicago. And he said, okay. And then I interned my way through Improv Olympic IO. which was awesome, performed there. And then I taught for the Second City for 4 years, teaching improvisation. And I helped I was one of the founding members of the youth program, which was super cool. And then from there, I went to graduate school because I was like, you know what? I really love this improv. I really love Chicago, but I really want to roll around on the floor in my sweatpants for 2 years. And so I went to Naropa University in Boulder, Colorado, because not only can I roll around, that's what you do after Second City. You're like, I'm going to go to a Buddhist school. So I went to a Buddhist school and got a master's degree in contemporary performance and continued making theater. So I've been creating my own work, working with collaborators to create work. I've done a lot of cool projects like immersive theater. I've done a lot of improv, I've been teaching improv. And all while doing that, I've been working with organizations and teaching improvisation on how to be better communicators and work together more effectively as teams, and also coaching people in public speaking and presentation skills. And kind of took on Tina Fey's philosophy, which is say yes and figure out the rest later.
Yeah.
And then I jumped in an RV with my family, as you do in your early 40s, with a dog and a cat and a husband and a 6-year-old. And it was a 40-foot RV. Do not recommend getting a 40-foot RV and then traveling all over the south of the US. But we did, and dropped into Mexico to save some moolah. And ended up in San Miguel de Allende, where I had been 2 years previously and had met this gorgeous human who's in this lovely Zoom room with us right now, Joseph Bennett, at a micro theater project. We locked eyes, we fell in love. And then I facilitated a workshop for him and his lovely husband, Eli Hans. And we have been friends ever since. And that was in San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. Then I drove home, and then we decided to move to New York City. And so here I am. That's the story. That was the Cliff Note version.
Wow. And Second City, that's like the top of the heap for improv, right?
Yeah, it was a special time. It was really wonderful to have that opportunity. Yeah.
Wow.
And how many years ago did you meet Joseph?
I would say we met 2016.
I don't know. You do the math. Maybe 2016.
2016, 7-8 years.
Yeah.
The best 7 or 8 years of my life, Joseph. And I divorced that other husband, and I'm married to my second one, just to make sure that was clear in the narrative.
Yeah. So the 40-foot RV was the second husband.
That was the second husband.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering that too. I was like, should I ask?
I know.
You should have. You can totally ask those questions. I'm very transparent.
Anything, and we just hope that we can keep track of all the relationships we've had.
Oh, and we have to get to your intro, but I have so many questions.
I know.
I was like, what did your family think about the Buddhist
Now, what are your
school?
parents? Yes, exactly.
I mean, I was dying over this story. I was like, what was her parents doing?
I know.
They were good.
They just nodded and smiled a lot.
I love that.
And then my mom was always like, can you please email me what you do? Because it's really hard for me to explain it to my friends.
To the friends. Yeah. No. Yeah. Over the lunch. The luncheons are very
They're very important.
Yeah. Yep.
That's very funny.
So
I love that.
Yeah, love that. Well, Joseph, do you want to share about these incredible 7 years of Meridith before that time? Like,
I have been drunk the whole time, so that has really helped a lot. It's been stoned. No, it has been amazing, and I'm really blessed that one day I was trying to take a nap, and I had this idea that I should, and I never used the word should, but I should do a podcast with Meridith. So I came upstairs, found my phone. That's the first miracle, that I found my phone, because that's always difficult. And sent her a text, and I'm like, hey, can we chat tonight? She said, yes. We chatted. I said, I have this idea for a podcast. She said, yes, immediately. There wasn't even a beat. Neither one of us knew what that was going to look like or how that was going to take shape. And we went back and forth for a couple of weeks with different titles and themes and ideas and concepts. And when we hit on, are you waiting for permission? It really struck a chord with us and with each of our partners, each of our husbands. And we've been running with that ever since. And it's been gorgeous. And it's a guest-based podcast, as yours is. And we get to connect with really amazing people and hear their stories of either how they are still waiting for permission and they're looking for that and they're striving for that, as we all do in some way, shape, or form, or they've already given it to themselves and they're kind of on the other side. Not that to mean that that's final or that they've already achieved something, but they're already on the other side and they're trying to live really brave and bold lives. And it's been fantastic, right, Grundei?
Oh, it's been really wonderful. Yeah, it's been I feel like I've grown a lot through the guests that we've had and have had some really, I mean, just beautiful insights. Yeah, definitely.
And as you
I-
know, Jeanna and Holly, it's quite a bit of work, right?
Mhm.
Everything
Yeah.
that happens behind the scenes of the scheduling and the editing and things, but
Yeah.
the rewards are 1,000-fold.
Mhm.
We're thrilled.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we
Happy
could
to be
not-
here.
Yeah,
And-
couldn't agree more.
And do you want to go back and tell us a little bit more about your background, Joseph? We went straight to
Yes,
the podcast,
yeah.
and I'm like, okay,
I
let's
got-
hear your cliff note. I'm dying to know.
Was there an
I
RV
got
involved?
nothing.
Never.
Yeah, you do. Okay.
I-
I'm gonna, yes, you have a
I'm
lot.
a gray-haired old gay
you are
guy
n-
living
you
in
are
central
n-
Mexico
you are
with an
not.
amazing husband, Eli Hans. I am an improviser and hypnotherapist and coach. And I'm an artist. I've been doing assemblage art. If you know what that is, that's using found objects, mixed media work to create assemblages or sculptures. And I love where I live. I'm thrilled that I ran away from home like 13 years ago.
Where
Born
was
and
home?
raised in Wilmington, Delaware, and then traveled
Mm.
across the country in search of warmth and found San Diego, California. And that is where I met and married my husband on the same day. We had a prearranged marriage. Talk about the law of attraction. Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Oh no, I
and
got to
that
hear
was
that
like
story.
22
It's a
years
good
ago.
one.
Yeah. So that's me.
Wow.
Happy to
Okay, we
be
have-
here and excited to get to know you both as well.
I love it. Okay, wait. Dave,
Holly's stuck on that.
I
We
know.
cannot keep, we can't move forward.
We are the law of attraction, making
Yes.
conscious creation a lifestyle. So
Correct.
was that consciously created, your husband?
Yes.
Of your dreams? Yeah.
So on June
Mhm.
23rd, he sat down and did a meditation about what kind of relationship he wanted to create. He had been single for 5 years. He lost his former partner very tragically. And he wrote everything out. He got the feeling, which is really important for our
Really?
listeners, right? The
Mhm.
feeling of what he wanted to create. He wrote it all down. He dated it, put it away. 30 days later, at Gay Pride in San Diego, California, in Balboa Park, there was a mass commitment ceremony. So there were a bunch of couples that were
Mhm.
symbolically marrying each other. It wasn't legal yet. And there were 100,000 people. There was a huge crowd. And the minister said, turn to your partner and repeat after me. And I jokingly, as an improv, turned to the guy standing next to me and I tapped him on the shoulder and I said, hey, do you want to do this? I'm so eloquent. I'm skilled at my verbiage. And I said, hey, you want to do this? And he said, yes. And so we exchanged the vows and we're kind of mumbling. We were a little bit shy because we didn't know each other. And, what is this really? And then the minister said the last vow, and that was, I promise to support you to your highest potential.
Mm.
And I thought that was so gorgeous. And I said, make sure you say that one out loud. And in that instant, as Eli tells it, he was like, oh, fuck, that's why I'm here. I'm here to get married. I didn't know that. And we have been together ever since. I started to leave because I'm like, haha, that was fun. See you later, guy, stranger. And he said, there's cake. And I said, that's my favorite 4-letter word. I will totally flip the cake. And we have been together ever since. And
Oh my
months went by and he was cleaning his office and he found the piece of paper where he had manifested
Oh
me.
my God.
Every-
I mean,
Everything
I want to
from-
cry.
I do
Okay.
too. That's
I
so
have goosebumps. That's the
beautiful.
most beautiful story I think I've ever heard.
Right down to the cake.
I mean, yeah, I love
Mm.
cake too. I mean, quite frankly, let them eat cake.
They
Okay,
thought of
that's what I
everything.
say. I mean, they
I know.
did.
For you,
the
lovebirds.
last part of the
That's
story is
amazing.
that morning he knew that there was going to be a mass commitment ceremony. Obviously, he knew that Pride was happening because it was a
Yeah.
couple miles away, and he decided not to go. And he was going to stay home and do laundry. That's kind of interesting.
Mm.
And he heard a voice that said, "You got to go."
Mm.
And he's like,
Oh.
no, I'm not going to go. I went yesterday. It's too far. You got to go. Get on your bike and go. And he listened to that voice.
Yeah.
And his show, Out of the Blue, is about listening to that voice that we all have, that intuition. and connecting to that and listening to it and following it. And that's how we met. Thanks for asking.
I love that. Okay, that's just I
mean,
thank you
that
for telling
is
that story. That is just
LOA
amazing.
Uncorked perfect.
I
Yeah,
mean, that's
yeah,
just
yeah.
the sweetest story.
Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. Okay, so you guys have entered, is it season 2
Mm.
of your podcast? Congratulations.
Yes.
Thank you.
That's really exciting.
Congratulations.
And I think I heard you, Meredith, say, and I love this. You said, I'd like to monetize this. And I'm like, amen, sister.
Mhm.
Okay.
Amen,
Do you
sister.
remember saying that? I don't remember what podcast
Any
you
day
said that.
now, that would be
Any
fantastic.
day. So if anybody's listening
Yes.
to these 2 podcasts,
Yes.
monetize us, please.
Please
I mean,
support your local
Pay
talent.
for our editors. I mean,
I know,
whatever.
right.
Yeah,
Just
just not a
some.
lot, but every little
something.
bit helps, right?
Every little
bit
Exactly.
It's so
Exactly.
true. No, I mean, I get you guys are weekly, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so we're every other week, and
Yeah.
you're right. There's a lot of work that goes
It
into
is.
it, but it's so amazing. You meet so many new people and get to look in their eyes and
It's
say,
so amazing.
you know, I'm so happy to have met you, and you learn so many new things. So it's an exciting time.
Yeah, for sure. And we really our original podcast. I mean, for the first probably year, we did not have guests.
Yeah, we did.
It was just Holly and I solo
Okay.
episodes. So we try and sprinkle those in every once in a while because they're just different. And the guests have been life-changing, truly life-changing for both of us. Those conversations have, really hopefully enriched our listeners, but definitely have enriched Holly and I. And yeah, it's been a fantastic experience.
So when you guys named your podcast and really wrote out the mission of your podcast, and you guys said that it spoke to you and your husbands, like why did it speak to you so greatly? What was that pull? Can you tell us a little bit about that story?
You want to start, Joseph? Because I feel like you wrote it down at one point. Are you waiting for permission? Do you want to tell that story? And then we can go into how it resonated with both of us once we landed on it.
Sure. Thank you. So many years ago, when I first started writing, so maybe like 25 years ago, I had noticed with some of my clients that we are generally waiting for permission. Like we're waiting for the right time. We're waiting for the right bank accounts balance. We're waiting for somebody to say, yes, you can do this. And I just kind of thought that was a little bit bullshit. You know, like, why are we waiting? Like, we are on this planet for a split second. What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for, I know people that are waiting for their parents to die so they can go forth and lead their dreams or live their dreams. And to me, that just sounds crazy. And so I kind of symbolically wrote down, are you waiting for permission? And I put it in my back pocket and I said, I'm going to use this someday, either as a book title, that was my original idea, or something else. Little did I know that 25 years later, Grundei and I would be having conversations about what to name our podcast. And I believe that it resonated with Eli and Gary and other folks because it's kind of a universal theme that shows up over and over again. What do you want to add, Meredith?
Yeah, I feel for myself, the big shift for me was when my father passed away in 2011. And I grew up in a very, I would say, conservative family. It was a very like linear approach to how one goes about living their lives. Like you get married, you get the really good job, you save up, you save enough for retirement, you retire, you get the sailboat, and then you die, right? Like that was pretty much the approach to life. So when Joseph shared this title with me, I said, yeah, because that linear life has been something I feel like I was fighting my whole entire life. Like this is not in the fiber of my being. This is not me on a cellular level at all. But because I was raised that way, I was constantly I was in judgment of myself. Like, am I doing the right thing? Am I making the right decisions? Am I worthwhile in this world? If I'm not attracted to the 9 to 5, how do I do all of this? How do I navigate who I am as a person? So I have very much lived my life, as you've heard, giving myself permission to take these leaps of faith, if you will. I remember my roommate in college giving me a poster of a woman leaping from one cliff to another, and it said underneath leap of faith. And I always kept that with me and that image with me, because I feel like life is too short, and my father left this planet without retiring and not getting the sailboat. And we're meeting his granddaughter and all of the things. And so I very much believe, yes, stop waiting for permission. Be present with those that are around you and that love you, and follow those impulses and those voices that sometimes we're so quick to push away, because it's not in that what we think our life is supposed to look like path.
There's so much of that is modeled, within your family of origin, within your culture, within your, but all the way down to books and stories. And, it takes bravery and commitment to feel like it should be something different, to kind of fight that norm. It really is a norm. And again, when your family is there. Joseph, did you have anything else you wanted to share on with
I did. And there's something that I think prevents a lot of us from giving ourselves permission. And it's this idea that we're going to make a mistake. So Meridith and I are really lucky that we've had a few years or more of improv training. And one of the guidelines in improv is there are no mistakes.
Correct. Yeah.
So when you take some of that and apply those improv concepts to life, so give yourself permission to start a podcast. Who cares if you fail? What does that mean anyway? Right. So just take those chances, and you're allowed to take the word mistake out of your vocabulary if that serves you.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. So can you talk a little bit about that law of improv? So if there are no mistakes, help us understand why there are no mistakes in improv and what you do with those things. And I don't know, Meridith, if you have thoughts on that, but I think for our listeners, that would be really helpful.
I like to reframe the word mistake into gift, because every mistake has gifts. So if you say the wrong thing, or you start a podcast and it fails, what were the gifts? What did you learn from that failure that's going to move you forward to the next beautiful thing in your life, or the next beautiful choice? And so that's how I frame mistakes in improv. And it's beautifully said by what Joseph shared, is that there are no mistakes. It's about failure. It's about figuring out how to play together. And Joseph, do you have more to add to that?
I don't know anyone who will or have had reached their deathbed and said, I wish I played it safer.
Yeah.
That's not a universal thing that I've ever heard of. Of course, there's a lot that I don't know about in life, but most of us have the reverse, right? The opposite. I wish I had been braver. I wish I had been bolder. I wish I'd given myself permission to make all kinds of crazy ass mistakes, right? So try that, listener. Just try that.
I love that. Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah. And I think, I don't know, from my perspective, when you talk about that, it's there's a fear of the unknown, or a fear of failure. So it's and then there's cultural, you've got it. Mine was always you've got to go get a decent job and make money, right? And so, and you guys both, I think you guys both grew up as obviously as creatives. And I grew up I'm a CPA, okay, and so I'm right. Okay. And I'm a very different CPA, but, and then I became an executive, and there was always, you're right about the giving permission. Cause I was I don't know that this resonates. I always knew. So deep down, I always knew it didn't resonate with me, but I always thought, well, this is the only way I'm going to make money. And so it's almost there was fear there underlying, and maybe not giving myself permission to try something. And then it was like the ex-husband, doesn't allow me to quit and is relying on my money like it became a pool of excuses and fear. And so how do you give yourself permission when you're, what are the tools we can use to kind of uncork it, Jeanna? Okay, uncork.
That was beautifully on brand.
I mean, and I could have just slid that through and not said anything, but I wanted to make just a pause.
Yes, to get credit.
I wanted
where credit was due. You should have asked for that.
I'm a very needy person this morning. Okay, I need credit. But uncork, yourselves to the truths, to the real truths, to be able to give you permission. Do you have tools?
Well, I would say, first of all, I feel like improv, if people who your listeners are right now, those of you who've never taken an improv class, if you can hop into one, I say, just do it, because what's so beautiful about it is there's no real world consequences. You're given these really cool, fun games. You get to laugh. And hopefully you have a good coach who's going to help you reflect back on what was that experience like for you? What did you notice? And so that brings me to, I love this Allen Ginsberg quote, which is notice what you notice. And I use it often because it's about turning inward and going, wow, that thing just happened to me. And I'm feeling sweaty and a little bit short of breath and a little bit scared. What's that about? Okay, it was because I was out of my comfort zone. Okay, what would happen if I just took a little baby step and tried that again? Right. And so for me, it's about first turning inward, noticing these, the what arises, and then allowing yourself, giving yourself that permission to take another little baby step forward or trying it again. I feel like we get it's all about the end goal so often that we forget that there's that journey in between, and that journey includes a lot of little steps. So if you're somebody who's like, I've always wanted to be a painter, you don't even need to go sign up for a class yet. You can just go to the drugstore and buy yourself a little palette of paints and sit at home and experiment with what that feels like and what that looks like and what you learned from that. You could get online.
Or if you've ever wanted to write a musical, Holly,
right?
You could just start with a piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah. So I feel like it's giving yourself permission to take baby steps.
Thank you. I mean, the prescription pad is very handy. Sorry, go ahead, Meredith.
No, I think this is beautiful. And I'm excited to hear about this musical. What's happening?
She's writing a musical.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Well, and did you direct, Meredith? Do you also direct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I also direct. I've been directing for several years and on and off. It's one of my other passions. And I directed Eli, Joseph's husband, most recently in his one-man musical. Mostly one-man musical.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That's really,
So you asked about tools, and I didn't want to serve your listener with a couple of tools for this. So if I may, with law of attraction, it's, where your attention goes, energy flows, right? So if your attention, for some of us, is on beating ourselves up and shaming ourselves and saying, I'm not worthy of writing a musical or being a painter or having a podcast, whatever it is, that's going to keep showing up in our life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And listener, the tools that I'm inviting in today for us and for you is giving attention to what serves you best. And that is probably not beating yourself up and shaming yourself. So I'm a big fan of acknowledging our gifts and acknowledging our strengths and building on that versus trying to build on lack or I'm not good enough or any of that bull. So that's a beautiful tool. Pay attention where your attention's going.
Yeah,
for sure.
Okay, so since we have you as captive audiences, and Jeanna and I have had this on our list to do for a long time. At first it was a book, and then it became a pamphlet. And then now it might be a flyer.
I think it's a
Trader
flyer.
Joe's flyer.
It's a flyer. Yeah, like a little
text.
Yes.
It could just be a text.
Trader Joe's flyer.
It could just be a text. Yes, Joseph. That's brilliant. Yes. The book is a 4-letter word we don't care for. It's a little intimidating and scary. So we we thought, well, let's just make it a flyer. It'll be a small book.
And then we got like a pamphlet.
A
And then it was like, and then we'll get all excited. We'll go out for drinks.
Oh yeah,
We'll go out for drinks.
The
We'll
planning is the best part.
We
of
go
it.
to Soho Grand and we go to the bar in New
For
York
some
City.
bubbly, right?
Get some bubbly, and we feel cool because we're sitting in those teal chairs, you know, and they're velvet or whatever, you know, and we feel really cool. And I get my phone out.
Super important.
Oh, we do. Okay.
So important.
And we sit there and I'm like, I know, I've got it. It's all here. Let's just record it. And then when we look at it later, we're like, that was shit.
What's
What was that?
There you are,
Yes.
beating yourself up, right? That
Yeah.
was shit.
Okay.
That's a form of beating yourself up, truly.
Yeah. Okay.
This is
So
true.
you guys have both done creative projects. What advice
Mm.
would you give
Great
us? I know.
question.
I mean, we're going to be
I mean,
healed.
you're getting all kinds
Heal
of credit.
us.
Yes,
Okay,
yes.
so what advice would
Yeah.
you give people who? Here's the thing: is I wouldn't. She was well. I think you're always a performer.
Yeah.
She's a performer. I mean, I did it maybe in high school, but I didn't do any of that. So I don't think of myself as a creative, even though I am. And so, but I went for years not thinking I'm a creative. And so how do you write that, musical during a pandemic, or how do you write your books? How do you write your play? How do you get that out for people who are not prescribed that way? They grew up in a different, more linear way, like you were talking about. What would you tell us to do? They're going to help us. I know it.
I will tell you, there's first of all, there's many different approaches to that process, I feel, and there's no process is the right process, right way of doing it, or the wrong way of doing it. And there are structures out there that you can find to get you started. The way I have always created work, and how I encourage people who are maybe new to the creating work, is to not discriminate against your ideas at the beginning, is that to get all the ideas out there, whether that be you open up your Otter AI app on your phone and you just start talking, and then you send the transcription to yourself, and then you look at it and you kind of go, oh, okay, this works. Oh God, I'm so glad I said this because that inspired this here. And I'm so right. So it's really about getting all the ideas out, because you don't know, that bad idea actually might inspire the best idea. And oftentimes we cross out that bad idea from the get-go, and then we're just doing our whole creative process a disservice. So that's my first advice. And then you look at all of that in front of you, and maybe you put it on note cards and spread them out all over your living room floor, and drink your bubbly while doing so. And then start to brainstorm it with people. And the other thing I always say, or with someone that you trust, that your creative partner. Also, in the very beginning, in the infant stages of that process, don't tell a lot of people.
Yeah.
No.
I feel like sometimes it's really hard in the creative process if you tell too much, because their process may not be similar to your process. And people are brilliant at giving unsolicited advice.
Mm-hmm.
So being really wary about where you're at, noticing where you're at, and what do you need, and being really clear about what you need from other people. If you do go out and ask and share your idea, you can say, I'm sharing this with you because I'm really excited about it, but I don't want you to comment on it. Right.
Right. Yeah. Some boundaries. Yeah. I like that.
Setting some boundaries, I feel, is super important. And know that it might take time, that sometimes one person's process might take them, like I know it took Eli a year and a half about to create his one-man musical. To some people, that might take 10 years, and that's okay. That's an okay place to be. So
Hamilton
trusting the
with
process.
Lin-Manuel Miranda was a decade, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, I want to add to that. Thank you, Meredith. I want to add that pay attention, there's that word again, to what stories we're telling ourselves, right? I'm not creative. I don't have a lot of time. That's a horrible 4-letter word. That's worse than book. Time is a terrible 4-letter word.
No,
pay attention to what you're telling yourself. My friends don't support me. I'm not very good at this. And when Meredith came to teach improv to my troupe, the improv people, one of the things that she taught us that resonated with me so much, thank you, Meredith, was the first 5 years are the hardest. And that, I think that's true for most creative endeavors, but I'm speaking about improv. But when we look at like writing a musical, And are we comparing that to Hamilton and like, oh, I'm not going to be that good. I don't even know how to rhyme anything with the name Hamilton, right? So, but allow yourself, give yourself permission to suck really badly and bring some joy into it. I think that we approach our creative processes or our work or whatever it is that your listener is trying to achieve with a lot of seriousness.
Right.
And for me, seriousness attracts a lot of constriction in our bodies and in our spirit. And when we're having joy, I know you both are really into joy and the celebration of that. We allow ourselves to open up. I'm spreading my arms from fingertip to fingertip right now. Like, invite that in. Have fun with it, for God's sakes.
Oh, beautiful.
That's beautiful advice.
So true. And you know, I think the more uncomfortable you feel about the venture you're on, whether it's a creative or anything else, the more that narrative of constriction, focus, do it well, you know, pay attention, all of those things, almost, again, it's like it's a narrative that you have to really be mindful of and watch for, because it just runs in the background. You don't even know it's there a lot of the time, and it will shut you down. I know this from a little bit of experience in this area. It's been a big area of work for me over the last number of years, is lighten up. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's not important for it to be perfect. Just do your best, have fun, and that is plenty good enough. And that is a really
and I believe that creates a really engaging vibration.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
You know, when we're having fun and we're happy, and when we're like celebrating, like, oh my gosh, I just totally messed something up. Look at that. And then that's going to attract all the right people into our universe.
Oh,
truly,
so
truly.
true.
I love that. And I love you saying, just keep track of what you tell yourself, and that you're right. That
So
4-letter
true.
word is the worst word, the time. Because I always think about, well, I don't have the time to make all those mistakes. I don't have the time for that. Like, you know,
I'm already behind.
I'm already behind. I was birthed behind. I don't know how that happened. I'm not sure. I may be the only one. I may be the only one.
Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you know, and so I've been telling that story for a long time. I'm behind, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and so that's nonsense.
Yeah.
And that creates the wrong vibration. You're right. It is constricting
Mm-hmm.
when you think of it like that. I love that.
So true.
Such great advice.
So can you talk a little bit about what your friendship, partnership together has meant beyond the podcast? You know, what it's great to be in the space with another fantastic partnership and friendship that, you know,
With chemistry
that feels similar to the beautiful opportunity that Holly and I have had, and friendship that we've had for a long time. So I'm just sort of, I'd love to explore that, if you would be willing to share a little bit about what you've learned from each other and about each other and from this relationship.
Oh, can I just giggle my answer with that?
I love it. Yes.
Yes.
The first thing that comes to
says
mind
a lot, actually.
is,
Yeah.
oh, there's so many things that I've learned. I've learned a really emphatic hell yes from Meridith Grundei. That's one of her favorite phrases. So I've learned that to really embody that and say yes to life. I've learned curiosity, and being curious about people and about events and about the world. And we do have a quite strong relationship outside of our podcast, because we're also in a like a personal growth book club together. So we meet once a week with others all over the world and read personal growth books. And then on Wednesdays, which is today that we're recording, Meridith teaches a large group of us confidently speaking. So she has a confidently speaking program, and I'm one of her students in that. And that's been going on for over a year. We meet weekly on Wednesdays. That's been beautiful. And then we had some rehearsals for a long time. So we're connected a lot. And our WhatsApp is consistently on fire, right? Meridith, what would you say?
Well, what I really appreciate about Joseph is he has the biggest heart of anyone that I know. And I love how he values, like he genuinely values joy, and he really values and also he reflects back, like he walks his talk. Let me just say that. Like he's like, rest. He rests. I'm going to go do my art. He goes and he does his art. He doesn't want to be on the Zoom call. He gets off the Zoom call. Like he really is like, he takes care of himself in this really beautiful way that at first, when we were first getting to know each other a little bit, I remember, I think I was, because I tend to sometimes, I could talk all day long. Like if you let me, I could be like, yes, you're my best friend and I love you. Let's just stay on a Zoom call all day.
I understand that.
Yeah. And I remember there was one time I was just talking and then all of a sudden he was gone.
I didn't know that was an option.
I think I was like,
that's
oh my God, he's so mad at me.
Jeanna. You could just
thank you, Joseph. I've learned so much in this podcast today.
Oh my God, it's brilliant. It's brilliant. So now I feel like his sister or something, because now when Joseph is like, I'm done, and he walks out of the room or he makes it, I'm like, God, you go. You're taking care of yourself and I fucking love you for it.
I'll be right here when you come back.
I'll be right here when you get back and I'll still be talking.
Yeah. When I come back on next Tuesday.
She just is sitting there on the Zoom just waiting. Yeah.
I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. You didn't know you had that option, right,
Jeanna?
Jeanna?
Think about it, but
it's the same thing. We'll get on the phone and I'll be like,
now.
Well, let me start in the beginning.
Yeah.
Okay. And there has to be some drama in the middle.
There's a lot.
And I go, I'm going to get there. It sounds like I'm not going to ever make my point. So like, here's what I do is I hide the points.
Oh.
And so you have to really search for them and you have to hang on.
At least she does like
your poor listeners of your podcast.
I would fail your class, but every failure is good. Okay.
Yes,
because I sprinkle little Easter eggs.
It's intentful.
In the middle.
Failure is intentful.
Yes, it's strategy.
Yeah, it works. It works. So I've learned over the years to just be really patient and trust. It will eventually all make sense. Even though it makes no sense in the beginning. Yeah.
100%.
That's the creative process.
Yeah, for sure. So speaking of creative process, like what creative ventures are you currently working on? Any projects you'd like to share with our audience? Can you kind of talk a little bit about what you've got going on and cool stuff you're creating in the world?
Yes, I'm in that place of what I'm going to call it work-life integration.
That's perfect. I'm all about that actually. Let's not talk about balance. I don't think that's a thing.
I don't understand the word anymore.
Yeah,
like I feel like this is my life, this is what I've chosen, and this is how I'm going to integrate all those things and pieces and people. And so aside from my business and doing those things, and which is creative for me and very much serves my heart and soul, I also, my creative endeavor, I've been working on a show for the past 5 years. It's had like a couple different incarnations in terms of how I've presented it as a story to audiences. Called the Father Project. It's now called Nothing Further, and it's inspired by the death of my father, who he died unexpectedly, and then the death was somewhat mysterious. We had called the police. There was an investigation, and then we found out he was living this kind of other like secret life. And so the show is based about that, and it is quite the process. And that is what I'm currently doing, and it's going to be, I got a 6-month residency at this place called Culture Lab in Long Island City. And the performance will be the first 2 weeks of July. And I am terrified.
Oh my God.
That is so exciting.
I want to go.
Yes. And
I love
it's a very unconventional presentation. It's a performance. I'm calling it a viewing. It's in a gallery, and I'm in an 8x10 plexiglass room. And the audience is meant to be like the voyeur, the passerby. And it's metaphorical for how I feel a lot of people live their lives, where they're too afraid in a nuclear family to talk about what's real, what's going on, secrets, if you will, or shame, however you want to frame it.
Wow.
And the idea of it being in the plexiglass room is I was always curious about living in and being raised in suburbia, when people would leave their lights on at night and their curtains open, and I would peek into their rooms as I was strolling at night or whatever as a kid. And I'd be so curious about what was going on in that house. And so
Mhm.
that's kind of where that came from, and that image, and just, yeah, it's it's a work. I call it a work in progress. I'm devising it. It's devised theater. So it's another way in where I'm creating moment from moment to moment. And then my director and I look at all of the moments that I've created, and then we put it together in a narrative.
Mm.
And there will be music there. There will be scored. My husband's a composer. I have a friend who's going to be playing the docent, who will be a part of the experience, the audience experience. So she'll
Right.
be their guide. And then I don't ever leave the room. I will be performing for an entire hour within this closed space, and then we'll do another performance following after that one.
Oh my
There'll
gosh.
be projections, and it'll be a multimedia experience, and it's all
Oh,
inspired by this.
Oh my
It
God, aren't you
sounds-
glad you asked?
I
oh,
am.
Isn't that
Meredith.
amazing?
That is
Incredible.
so
right?
incredible.
Sounds incredible. I love the fact that you're rebranding it to the viewing. I mean,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and just really taking that art into a completely different expression or delivery method.
Thank you. Yeah, my idea,
Incredible.
the idea is that I'm presenting it in this way because I want audience members to be able to have their own experience with the material. I want them,
Mhm.
I don't want to give so much of my narrative away to where they can't have their own experience or ask their own questions about,
Right.
oh, what would it feel like if I actually shared this really hard thing with my parent or with a loved one?
Right.
What kind of healing could happen if I was able to do that?
Mm.
So that's what I'm exploring in the material. And of course, it's an investigation, and the investigation, the mystery, and all that will be
Right.
revealed
Oh,
throughout it too.
Mm.
Sounds incredible.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd
And
love to-
sending
love
you
to see
love
it.
and blessings
Thank you.
on all of
Congratulations.
it. Okay.
Thank
What
you.
a
Big deal.
beautiful, no doubt tribute for your father too.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Joseph, what are you up to?
Thank you. I am lucky to be getting on a plane in a couple hours and flying to Philadelphia and New York City to go see a rehearsal of Nothing Further. So I'm thrilled about that.
Yay.
We're going to go see the Whitney Biennial as well.
Love
And
that.
I'm running some retreats here in San Miguel de Allende with my husband. We have sanmiguelretreats.com. So we do healing retreats here and writers retreats and quit smoking retreats. And then this month, I don't know when the podcast is being released, but now that we're recording, it's May 2022. And my book, Rest, The Art of Doing Less, is coming out in just a few weeks.
Mm.
And that is a workbook looking at how we can begin to heal our addiction to busyness and how our overwhelm until now can become a status symbol.
Oh,
Yeah.
for sure. You're
And
absolutely
it's from the
right.
perspective of a recovering workaholic, which I am. So
Wow.
I'm excited about that, putting that forth into the world.
And it's a workbook.
I
It's
need
a
that
work-
book.
I need that book too.
That's
Yeah.
one of those things that keeps coming up for me.
Yeah.
I quit my corporate job, and I was always, if you're not charging hours and billing hours, you're not
Sure.
valuable.
Right.
Yep.
And so rest isn't valuable. In fact, I feel guilt, which is a low level vibration.
Yeah.
And so
It's been a big
I'm-
battle for you. It's been
I've
interesting
been
to watch.
reforming, but
Mhm.
that's a really important
Mhm.
piece of work that you're doing. And there
I
are
didn't
some
hear you,
people.
Jeanna.
No, it's really been a big battle for Holly,
Oh.
this transition period and kind of settling into a slower pace and knowing that's okay and actually
Mm.
better than okay. It's exactly what she should have been doing
Mhm.
much
Right.
earlier in life.
Yeah. So I
Yeah.
love it. Can't wait
Yeah,
to read
Perfect
your
time,
book.
perfect
So
time.
we will put all of your information in our show notes,
course.
and you can find them and their podcast. And
The book, and I mean, if you can get to the play, we might.
Let's go to New York road trip.
Let's
right?
go
I
to New
think
York.
so.
Everybody come to New
Exactly.
York. Yes,
absolutely.
please.
Oh my God, it'd be
I like to
amazing.
have excuses. I don't need to ask for permission to go
No,
to New York.
no, we do love
Oh,
New York.
I do have one more thing.
Yes,
One more
please.
thing I'm working on. So we've mentioned Out of the Blue. I'm actually in that show in the third act. Meridith directed it. And it's premiering in Hollywood June 10th and 11th. So it's going to be at the Hollywood Fringe Festival at the
Oh,
Zephyr
shoot, we're just
Theater
gonna miss it.
Oh, shoot.
in
Okay, that's
Hollywood.
cool.
And,
In
so I
Hollywood.
would be amiss if I didn't plug Eli's show. It's amazing, and
Oh, I love
Absolutely.
that.
we're excited
Yeah.
about that.
Fantastic. Well, what a absolute delight this
Absolutely.
conversation has been. And your podcast and each of you and what you're doing in the world and how you do it has just been so phenomenal to witness today and share with our audience. So thank you so much for the time.
Yes.
Oh my
thank you
goodness,
so
thank
much.
you.
Yeah,
Thank
it
you.
was so
And we're excited to
great.
have you on our podcast.
We
in
can't
a
wait to
couple of
Listen,
weeks,
we're
too.
coming. We're gonna do a little bit of improv practice, so we are sharp.
We're gonna be sharp for
ready.
you.
Beautiful. We will yes and the heck out of it.
All right.
Love it.
Awesome.
All right.
Thank you so
All right.
much.
Thank
We
you,
Thank you,
Joseph.
appreciate
listeners.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Meridith.
Bye-bye.
Bye.